What do you get when you take a former manager plus report combo who are now real life friends, one a management coach and sudden viral internet star who shoots from the hip, and the other a CX exec turned advisor who overthinks everything? This podcast. Welcome to the Business of Humans. I'm Joe, founder of CX Joe Advisory and the Overthinker. My partner in crime is Linda. She's the founder of Leveled Up Leadership and the Internet Star. Join us as we talk about business, relationships, humanity, success, and also failure through the lens of friendship, heaps of radical transparency and honesty, and zero BS. Let's get started with today's episode.
Hey, Joe.
Hello. How's it going, Linda?
Good.
I am great. I know you've had a busy few days as ever. What's been going on your end?
Yeah, so I went to Seattle yesterday for the day.
That's right. Yes.
It's really funny. Growing up, my mom was not while she was growing up, while I was growing up. My mom worked for Southwest Airlines.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I used to do day trips all of the time. That was a very normal occurrence for me, which is kind of funny because I wouldn't say that we were by any stretch of the imagination like rolling in the cashola, right? But the way that we kind of lived, you would think that that was the case because we used to go. My mom loved it. It was her favorite thing to do was to go do a day trip someplace. So we would always go someplace where we could get to in about 90 minutes. Every now and then we'd hit LA, which is about 2 hours, but it was like 90 minutes. And she'd be like, pick a destination that we can go to, which is funny because growing up in Utah, it was Phoenix, it was Vegas, and it was occasionally California. So I did a lot of Phoenix and Vegas, but we would just go for the day. And for our birthdays, instead of doing a party or whatever, she'd let us skip school. And she's like, where do you want to go to lunch? So I went and had lunch at In-N-Out Burger quite a bit growing up.
Nice.
Because we didn't have those in Utah yet. So
this sounds like the perfect childhood so far, by the way. Like lots of day trips and quick flights to Vegas with your mom and In-N-Out Burger. Like, sign me up.
Yeah, so I did that a lot growing up, and it's so funny because there's a town here in Utah called St. George, and a lot of people up in Salt Lake and Bountiful and the surrounding areas have like condos, right? Like vacation condos down in St. George. So growing up, people were always like, I'm going to St. George. And I thought, like, that's weird. I made it to my adult life having two grown children, well, not grown, but two like older children. And I finally, like 3 years ago, had to go to St. George for a soccer tournament for my daughter. And I was like, and it was an overnight. So I'm like, so what's a good place to go eat for dinner? And people are like, you've never been to St. George? Like, no, I haven't. And I started to feel kind of almost like sheepish or like I had missed out on something. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I used to go on day trips. Like I'd get on an airplane instead of driving in the car for 4 hours. I'd get on an airplane and go someplace.
That kind of makes it sound like you'd get on your private jet.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Kind of felt like it sometimes. Every now and then the flights were empty. It's back before flights were always full. Anyway, I did a day trip to Seattle yesterday to go be on another friend's podcast. And it was my first time to Seattle. It's a beautiful town. It rained and most people would be bummed by that. But I felt like Seattle really like rolled out well, you're here. This is what we do.
Exactly. That's what's supposed to happen when you visit Seattle for the day. It would be really strange and kind of disappointing if it was just, sunny, perfect weather, 80 degrees. I think it needs to be raining. Clearly, you need to be sipping a huge Starbucks from the first Starbucks. And I'm sure you and your friend between podcasting were just like tossing the fish at the market and everything.
100%. And we went to the thing that she's like, well, what do you want to see? Because I'd never been there. I'm like, can we go see the first Nordstrom?
Wait, that's amazing. That's hearkening back to one of our last episodes. Isn't Nordstrom the place that fired you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just had to go back. You're like, cheers. Look at me now, guys.
Well, interestingly enough, she's also a former Nordstrom employee and she rage quit. So I got fired. She rage quit.
That's amazing.
I was just like, if I'm in Seattle, the thing I need to see is the Nordstrom.
It's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, it's so cool to hear about your child. Like, I've always thought that having a family member, I guess as a parent, or, kid, sibling, I don't know how far that whole discount extends of like the family either rides free was probably the old days. I don't know if it's like a discount now, but I've chatted with people, even during the year in Hawaii, I made a local friend and the airline had done some downsizing. And so he was doing other, like various other jobs, to pay the bills. But we got to talking one day and he's like, if that job at the airline ever opens back up, like he's just like basically on a waiting list. And it's for this reason, because he would just take his family all around the world on vacation. It was the hugest perk. Like I can't really think of any other perk like that, period.
No,
It's amazing.
there isn't. There isn't. So,
Yes.
yeah, those are the days. But that was a while ago,
Yes.
and that's when you lost benefits at 18 before they extended to 26. So
Yes.
I did a lot of flying. I've been to a lot of places in the United States because at
Hmm.
that time she worked for Southwest Airlines, and so at that time they were only domestic flights. I mean, they're still not hugely international, but they were only domestic flights. So I went to St. Louis a couple times.
Hey, that's
That was
exciting.
cool.
That's
Yeah,
exciting
yeah.
to
I went
me.
to the Six Flags in St. Louis because my mom's a bit of an amusement park junkie,
Hmm.
and so we went to like the Six Flags and ate at White Castle, and it was
Yeah.
awesome.
That's amazing. When I was growing up, all of the family vacations were getting into a station wagon. I'm the youngest of five. And at a certain age, first it was like one, two, three, then four siblings were either in college or grad school or graduated. All of the vacations were just piling into a station wagon and driving somewhere in the Northeast and visiting them for the weekends. Or I think one time my dad planned a trip to Mystic, Connecticut, which is a cute little town. It's been featured in movies. We drove like 2 or 3 hours and like ate pizza and maybe swam at the hotel pool. And that was very exciting for growing up. And I know both of us feel similarly about this now. It's like very, very exciting and gratifying, slightly concerning, but mostly exciting to give our kids such a different experience with travel and upbringing. Only I mentioned slightly concerning in case they're wildly spoiled and kind of don't appreciate it fully, right? Which is a whole other topic, but it's mostly just so enriching to give our kids these travel experiences now. And I'm feeling really energized today. I mean, first, it's a really exciting career chapter. It's great to be back on the pod, and I have lots of exciting little CX Joe conversations happening, but also because we actually started to think about our summer travel adventures and, more details to come. But I just can't express how energizing it is to start to think about the next world adventure. And I'm sure if we do end up doing our traveling, maybe we could record some podcast episodes with each of us in exciting new locations.
Yes.
And Linda, I'm sure that if my family does some travels over the summer, maybe we'll post on social media about it. Dot,
Yeah.
dot, dot, hint, hint, hint. You want
Yes.
to take the baton here, Linda?
Well, I think that that's a great segue into the
Oh, thank
conversation
you.
we're having
Supernatural.
today.
You're welcome. My
So
pleasure.
today's topic is social media, which is near and dear to my heart in such a way that I didn't think that it would be, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So, Joe, you and I are similar in age. I'm a little older than you,
Yep,
but
25.
we're close in age. And you and I came up in a time when we didn't have social media, right?
Yep. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I remember getting a Facebook page, not a Facebook, sorry, a MySpace page, right? And
Mhm.
having MySpace was a thing in my 20s, right? So I came up without any kind of social media. And you similarly, right? And you have older siblings too. So I think sometimes you're kind of lumped into this older sibling space as well because they didn't have it, right? So you were
Yeah,
probably the first one of your siblings to have it.
the total
Um,
same for me, by the way. I remember a
yeah,
friend at college telling me about Facebook when I was maybe like a junior, senior. I was like, that's stupid. I think I like held out till after college. And believe it or not, Linda, my wife and I, who we met at college or university in Montreal, Canada, at McGill, and we each got through all of university with no cell phone. So yeah, to your point, it's hard to imagine now for a kid, or not even for our kids, but even people who are like 2 or 3 years probably younger than us, but whole college experience. Imagine that. No social media, not even cell phones.
yeah. And it's so interesting. And when we talk about social media, it's so near and dear to my heart, right? Because I really kind of avoided social media. Like I did a little
Hmm.
bit of MySpace. I never really got on the Facebook thing. I still struggle to use Facebook. Sorry, Facebook.
It's okay. You kind
I
of waited it out. No, no worries now.
Well, I had a lot of really personal, not nice things to say because I'm me. Anyway, and I had an Instagram account and it was fun because I could stay connected with people and see pictures and I didn't get into drama or anything like that, right? Like I just was never big on the social media until about, geez, like 9 months ago when things weren't really working for me the way that I had thought. And so I kind of went to social media and um I have done very well on social media. It's treated me very, very well this time around. And but I think it's really important to talk about like the importance of social media, the impact that it has on people at work and how it can impact your work life and
Hmm.
maybe tell some cautionary tales. So that's kind of what I'm here to talk about today.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've been excited for today's pod, and truth be told, I've kind of bugged Linda before the recording just around like I have lots of questions, and I think there's so much that you could share with the audience around your leverage of social. I think we'll do some of that today, but there's also lots of other topics that we want to get to. It's kind of one of those meta topics, I feel like, for you, Linda, because even, social media, like you said, has played a really big role in this career chapter and just, a lot of success. And I really hope and feel as a friend, even like fulfillment, which is the most important thing. And social is playing a huge role in all of that for you. Then you're connecting with so many humans on social media, which is super interesting and kind of obviously core to this podcast. It's like using technology and these social platforms, but I feel like the way that you're doing it is very much like connecting with your audience, sometimes even on a one-to-one and small group basis. And then I guess like the most meta that is kind of interesting is like even in the questions that your audience will ask you in those sessions. I mean, I think social media and some of the questions that we'll talk about today pop up, right? It's like this meeting place and this phenomenally positive thing in a lot of ways. But like you said, it could also be a cautionary tale or topic or just something to navigate appropriately. So I think there's a lot of folks who could benefit from your/our perspectives here.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think that the perspective that you and I get to bring is, I get to bring the perspective of, yes, this has been like wildly successful for me. But I also, I've sat in the other seat. I've sat in the other seat and had to hold people accountable for things
Hmm.
that took place on social media. And so I hope that people who are listening walk away with like understanding like there's good and bad to everything. And at the end of the day, I'm going to use my mom voice, but it's like just use your best judgment.
Yeah, for sure. So, Linda, let me ask you a couple of questions, and we can keep it on the quicker side, and then get into sort of the core topics. But first of all, just to embarrass you a little bit, you mentioned that this is this foray into social has been successful. Can you sort of? I think this is actually really good context for the rest of the conversation, and just a kind of solid baseline for people to understand. Like you kind of know what you're talking about here, but so it's been like 9 months or so you've been focusing on social being a part of your career and life at all. And can you put into just numbers or detail a little bit of like what that success has looked like?
Sure. So I started out with when we talk follow count, right? Like if we
Hmm.
want to
Hmm.
talk follow count. I started brand new with TikTok. So I downloaded TikTok in December of 2024. I think I did like two really bad videos, maybe three. And they weren't bad. They just I felt good about them, but they weren't the thing, right? They just weren't the thing. I think that they might be the thing now because people know who I am and they know that I'm all about like trying to educate
Yeah,
you
I'm
and get
sure the insights were awesome,
yeah,
right? It
get you
just,
some
yeah.
information. But so I started on TikTok then. I had like 3 or 4 followers. Then there was the ban that happened. And so I was just like, I removed TikTok. I literally removed TikTok from my device.
Right.
And and it was banned for an hour and then it came
Yeah, yeah.
back.
I almost forgot about that.
I was like, oh, I need to get it back. And I had to wait like a month. So I
Oh,
didn't
well.
download TikTok again, I think, until April
Okay.
2025.
Yeah.
And then I started posting consistently. I had like, I think at that time I maybe had 100 followers. By July of 2025, the first part of July, I had 1,000 followers. And if we
Hmm.
fast forward to today, I've got 350,000, roughly 350,000 people on TikTok. Yep. And
That
then
was my
on,
attempt at a whistle. That's phenomenal. Ah,
yeah, it's
crazy.
been really, it's been wild growth. And then on Instagram, I had had an Instagram account for many years. So I had about 150 followers. Those were all friends and family.
Yeah,
And I had
sounds
kept my
about right.
account private there. So I'd kept my account private for a long time. And then I looked this morning and I'm like at 453,000, something like that on Instagram.
That's so insane.
And then I started a new Facebook page because I'd had a Facebook forever because it was Instagram, but also I think because I got free stuff on Candy Crush. So I had a Facebook account, but started a new Facebook account,
Hmm.
and that's to about 120,000 people.
Oh my gosh. We
Yeah,
haven't
so
even talked about that one as much. It's
no,
like
I
an
have,
afterthought. Oh, by the way, just my 120,000 over there.
yeah. So I have a fair amount on each platform, and I'm growing my YouTube currently. It's got like 675 people. So
Okay. All right.
I'm on my way up on YouTube. But so it's been wildly successful. And I think it's been wildly successful because of the things that I talk about. I feel, the one thing, and Joe, I know you can vouch for this because we have worked together and we've talked, a lot about the people who are out in the world beyond us, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, people want to be seen and they want to be heard. And I would talk about that a lot as we were building processes when we were together at DH. And I think that people are feeling seen and heard. I think that through my experiences and through my lens, I've been able to help people feel less alone. And that's the thing. And again, like that's why I think this podcast is so different is we're not trash talking work, although I sometimes do talk about trash talking work on social media. We're not talking about that. We're trying to tell you, like, we're trying to help guide you so you don't feel so alone. Because what I find, and I find this with my private clients a lot, we don't talk about work in the way that maybe we should.
Mm,
We might go complain to our friends. And the thing is, our friends and our family are always in our corner. So they were like, you should quit. That's a terrible job. You shouldn't do the things, right?
hmm.
We might talk to our coworkers, which I would caution you against in general, if you're going to talk poorly about your job. We talk about our coworkers, and then that's commiserating. So we're
Hmm.
commiserating. But we don't seek help.
Mm,
And our friends don't give us help. Our friends just say like, yeah, that's terrible. We're not seeking help. And that's ultimately why I think my content has resonated with so many people is
hmm.
it's, hey, here's a problem. And they're like, I don't have to feel alone anymore. I
Yeah,
don't feel
yeah.
alone anymore. I thought it was just me who was going through this problem.
Hmm.
And so it's been a way for people to not only connect with my journey and my story and me help kind of guide them through that, but it's also been a way for other people to connect. I see people interacting in the comments all of the time, helping each other out. And it's just
I
been a
love
way
that.
for people to not feel alone and for people to.
Yeah, I imagine people interacting in the community and even helping each other out is one of the most fulfilling things for you. Uh, and another comment, and then a question for you. So the comment for me is also what I've observed. What I love about your presence on social, what I think a lot of people out there could emulate, is trying to make it personal. Actually, driving, as we always say on this pod, but driving connections with other human beings, bringing humanity to the approach, but really personal and really willing to dive into the details. I think I mentioned this maybe on our first pilot episode, but I dropped into one of your TikTok live sessions, and what really a couple by now, and what really struck me was just your willingness to jump in. And as somebody like me, right? My I want to help everybody, but my approach sometimes is like, tell me more, give me all the details, and me kind of run it through like the algorithm in my head. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it's really amazing with you because you're willing to just jump in, put yourself out there, respond to people, and it's their personal situations and stories. So I have people I might follow on social or I get newsletters from them. I respect and admire the heck out of them. However, and I got a lot of value from it, but the notion that I'd be able to like click reply or write a comment or come off mute and talk about my own situation doesn't even occur to me. It's nothing like nearly that personal. So I mean, I guess just a sort of long-winded way of like sharing some kudos there and something that I think is really special about what you're doing on social. And I guess my question for you to take in any direction you like is, you know, what was it? Just our last episode was about, or a couple of episodes ago, was about bringing your whole self to work. And so I feel like there's a nice like segue or overlap here. So yeah, I just kind of want to tee up for you, like just starting to get into the topic of how much of yourself can you bring into social media? How much should you think about it as two completely separate worlds of personal versus career? Obviously, I'm asking this to somebody who's in like a subset of people for whom like it's just one and the same at this point, right? But how would you sort of extrapolate that or like generalize that into thoughts and advice for for folks out there, for the masses?
I'm so glad you asked that question. And I didn't, for the listeners, I didn't set that up, right? But it's something I've been thinking about quite a bit. And, we did talk a lot about bringing your whole self to work. And we talked about the things that you shouldn't talk about at work, right? Uh, but those are things that we talk about, right? And the things we shouldn't talk about at work are sex, religion, and politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just leave those not at work. But we're going to talk about those in our personal life, and we're going to talk about those on our platforms because our platforms are an extension of ourselves, right? And so for me, it's just like, you have to have an avenue to express yourself. And it's been so interesting. We were expressing ourselves before, and then we went into the COVID world. And when
Mm-hmm.
we went into the COVID world, the only thing some people had was social media. That was the only thing that they had, the only way of connecting with people because some people didn't have, some people weren't fortunate enough to be able to like isolate with their families, or maybe their families were really young, or maybe they don't like their families, right? Like this was the only way for people to connect. And so we saw a huge boom, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
saw kind of an influencer boom there too, where regular people were just sharing their opinions. I think also if we were to, I will be fascinated to see what studies are done on society in general in the next 20 years. I think of like the housewives, which I'm going to get hate for this. I know I'm going to get hate for this, but the housewives have really created this subculture, and not just the housewives, but I think reality TV in general has created
Mm-hmm.
this whole subculture of being rewarded for being awful, right? We look at these people who are truly awful and hideous to one another, and they are rewarded with fame and wealth, right? Like these people are
Mm-hmm.
rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen the same thing happen on social media where we
Mm-hmm.
see some people who have really been rewarded for being nasty on
Mm-hmm.
social media or being this thing. And when we sit and we observe, we're like, how can I do that? How do I get paid? How do I leave my job? And I think the easiest way for people to go is to be nasty, right?
Mm-hmm.
To complain, to talk poorly about people, to I mean, my word, I see stuff, I see stories all over the time about like influencers coming in and feeling entitled and acting entitled and all of these things.
Yeah.
And so you see a lot of that. And I have seen some people that I've worked with who have done similar posts where they're posting things where I'm like, ooh, it's like the cringe factor, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, even when the response to a post like that is negative or to shame that person, in a way, they're still being rewarded. And so, in a way, it's still kind of, I wonder if it's, motivating people to act in a way that they don't want to or isn't them, or is it more like kind of letting go of their inhibitions and, true behaviors come out? I don't know. But please continue.
I think it's a combination of both, honestly. I think that it's so first and foremost, yes, the nasty behavior gets rewarded big time. So I put a post up a while ago when the SNAP benefits in the US were canceled.
Mm,
And there was a few people who, and I don't know if it was clickbait or not, right? but made these videos and these posts shaming people who need to use these benefits. And it was awful. It was heart-wrenching and terrible. And then I saw these other bigger influencers who were on the opposite side of the spectrum. But what they were doing is they were also posting this person's video, but then
Mm-hmm.
shaming them in their post.
Mm-hmm.
And the trouble that that causes is that continued to drive more people to go look at this person's post
Mm-hmm.
and interact with that person's post. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to peel back the curtain on how people get paid. But
Yes,
on
please.
on TikTok, on that particular platform, well, and on any platform, the more interactions you have and the more conversations that are being had about your post,
Mm-hmm.
positive or negative,
Mm-hmm.
gets your content pushed harder.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be saying you are the most, this is like the most despicable comment, or I
Mm-hmm.
can't believe this is what you think. But the algorithm is not a human. The
Mm-hmm.
algorithm is a machine. And
Mm-hmm.
all it says is, this post is on fire. Push it harder.
And Linda,
And
do you know, is it even just someone watching the whole post? Is it like halfway through? Is it to
yes,
completion? Do people know these? I feel like there's like an air of mystery around a lot of this, but you're in the smaller bucket of people where it's like if anyone knows, you might know. Like, does it matter if you watch a little of it, all of it, etc.?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So if you watch, and each platform's slightly different, and the algorithm changes a lot, and it's kind of secret. So, but usually anywhere between 3 and 5 seconds. So you watch 3 to 5 seconds of a post,
Interesting.
then it's like, oh, this is an important post, or this is a
Hmm.
post people
Hmm.
want to watch. And then if they watch and then they comment, then it's like, oh, this is a really good post. If they watch it more than once, I mean, all of these things are tracked, right? And that's what pushes the post, and that's what makes it more popular. So these horrific things that people are saying,
Hmm.
they're literally getting paid thousands of dollars for saying something awful. And the people who figure out what camp they're in, right? And I
Hmm.
mean, we can
Hmm.
talk about like karmic retribution and all of those things later, but they're figuring out how to get paid. And again, this is in a society where are truthfully rewarding terrible behavior. And so when I think about that trickle down to employees, because I always want to bring it back to the
Yeah.
employees, when people figure that out, or they hear that, or maybe they listen to this podcast and they're like, I'm going to go say really awful things. I mean, those are your choices. But I want to talk about like the ramifications at work for this and how this can affect you. But again, like back to your
Yeah.
original point of like, is this just an extension of you, or is this another
Yeah.
thing? Sometimes it is truly an extension of you, and you're saying these things because you have to have an outlet. But I have some cautionary tales on what you share. And Joe, I'm sure you have
I
some cautionary tales
Well, I
as
want
well.
to jump to that topic too. I mean, I guess what I want to say is, first of all, you mentioned karmic retribution, which I think could be brought into, again, just something both of us think a lot about, or kind of a theme of our careers or the pod, which is like, do the right thing. Life is short. It's a lot more fun and fulfilling, and long term, how you build true relationships and find happiness and fulfillment is just being kind to people. And again, for anyone only listening, we're having this whole recording. Linda has a sign that says "Be kind," like right above your head. So it's just as I make that very corny but hopefully salient point, I'm looking at your "Be kind" sign. But no, I mean karmic retribution, fulfillment, happiness, relationships, all the things. You'll die much happier if you're nice to people. But beyond that, Linda, I think another point that we need to focus on is that even when we talk about folks who are awful online and make money from it, however we might feel about that, right? Whether someone wants to try to emulate that, or if you're just like me and you find it kind of reprehensible, but either way, it's almost like winning the lottery or like making the NBA. If you like basketball, you're not actually going to make like generational wealth being nasty or posting content online for most people. And so I do think that even like putting the morality to the side, we should jump into this topic. For 99% plus people, whatever we post online, there's going to be your normal life, your normal job. And I've even seen this where on one hand, this person, I'm like, oh my God, and I'm watching it and they were so nasty and this and that. They're kind of getting some shine from it. But that person might have just got fired from their job. And both of us have experiences from our career and even managing people. And like good folks, good humans and employees. And it's like, oh, geez, what do they post online? And so, yeah, I do want to jump to that because that, again, besides those folks who make a living from posting content, I'm talking to one of the few who kind of does that. But, for most people, I think you definitely have to keep in mind your normal life and way of paying the bills and normal job in mind when you're choosing what to post online.
Or even honestly how you behave in the world, right? Like I think about
That's a great
there's
point.
a couple kind of vigilante, if you will, social media people
Yes.
who again make money on social media just by tracking down people with poor behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, in this digital world that we live in where anything can be caught on camera,
Yeah.
truthfully, and anything can be posted, and like once it's out into the internet, like it's very difficult to pull that back,
Yeah.
right? So I think in general, so it's such a weird dichotomy, right? Like we live in a society that you're really rewarded for nasty behavior, and we see it on a very grand scale. But then
Mm.
also, like there are people who are dedicated to holding you accountable. And I have a story about this. I worked for a company, and we had an employee who loved to post on social media, just like
Mm-hmm.
love to post. And they posted a lot of things, like
Mm-hmm.
a full array of things, right? Like love to post recipes, love to do crafts, love to do all of the things, right? Well, there was someone who contacted our company. I don't even think they were a customer. I really don't even think that they were a customer of ours. But they had found a post by this employee that had some, I think, kind of racist undertones. Like, I think it wasn't overtly
Mm-hmm.
racist, right? It was not overtly racist, but it had some undertones where one would go, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I would have posted that online, right? And this customer went, or not customer, this person went hard after this employee. Like they were contacting all of the executives, they were contacting everyone, they were posting online, they were leaving Google reviews about a customer service agent. It was a customer service agent. It was I had to go scour their entire Facebook page, and I went through hundreds of posts to find this one post. There was no other posts that were even close to this. There was nothing else that had that kind of smell to it. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
else. It was one post out of, I mean, probably thousands of posts,
Wow.
truthfully, out of
Wait, and
thousands.
then just to confirm or to clarify, this is in a role, were you the person's direct manager?
I was not. They were two levels
Yeah,
below me.
got you. Okay. But you were, yeah, so you're in this leadership position. I think it's like a good insight for people too. It's like when a situation like this comes up, I imagine it was you, maybe a couple of other people in the company on the people or HR team or whomever, but basically you were one of the senior leaders. You're like, okay, now my job today is nothing else but to read through these thousand and like figure out what to do here
Yeah.
because it's really important. Okay.
And we had to go through and we had to make this call, and we had to go through, like I said, I went through hundreds of posts, but this person
Mm,
had been on their account for many, many years. So probably had thousands of posts. And this one post found the right person, rubbed that person the wrong way. And again, I don't think I would have, it smelled funny. It didn't feel right. Again, it wasn't overtly, but it did have undertones that I didn't care for.
mhm,
Um, but it struck this person the wrong way. And this person went hard. They went vigilante style to try and like end this person's career,
mhm,
truthfully, just to end this person's career. And when we had to have the conversation with this employee, right? We ultimately decided um, not to terminate because there wasn't like an overall like everything, and we couldn't see commonalities, and we they were a really solid employee. We had to really kind of weigh a ton of factors on what to do with this employee,
mhm,
all because they flippantly, and it was a repost. It wasn't even an original
mhm,
post. It's something
mhm,
they had reposted.
mhm,
And so something that they hadn't thought through, something they gave like, they're like, yes, this resonates for me, and like repost, right? And I think it's so crucial for people to understand, like, once it leaves your hands, it's no longer yours. And I tell
mhm,
my children this too. I'm like, once it leaves your hands,
mhm,
it's somebody else's to interpret, to
Yeah.
do with distribute and to do with what they will. And so it's very crucial for people to understand that, like, yeah, you might think it's being flippant, or maybe you think it's a thing, or maybe you think it's funny,
Hmm.
but that is now representative of you, and you, by extension, are representing your company. Whether you like it or not, you are representing your company. And again, this person was just, they were, and I don't want to diminish, they are a customer service agent. They were a great customer service agent, and they were crucial to the operation. So please don't let me like diminish this person. Organizations rely on people like this, right? We rely on them. But this person wasn't a person of power. They weren't a CEO. This wasn't a major takedown.
Yeah.
This was a takedown of an individual because of a thing that they posted. And I don't think that people understand the impact of just a simple little post,
Yeah,
right?
I
Or a
agree with
simple
you.
little
And
thought.
yeah, and just your point around once you click post or whatever it might be, press enter, save, whatever, like that's it to an extent. And of course you could pull it down. But it's interesting is like I think we think first of like celebrity mishaps in terms of it's posted, it could get screenshot, and now that's it. It doesn't matter if you pull it down. I don't think that only relates to celebrity mishaps. Like you're saying, that could be in the workplace as well. If a colleague finds something or a boss finds something, um, that they think is objectionable, they're going to screenshot it for sure, like right in that moment. And so even if you take it down later, it's done. And again, it's just a very different sort of pressure scale than we grew up with. If I misspoke on something, I could always apologize for it later, and maybe one or three or 10 people in a room heard me say it. And I could apologize, explain myself. It's really different now, and uh, I think it's always tricky, and like I was saying before, to dive into the details of any one situation. I mean, even sort of the hint of hatred or racism in posts, I think, is sort of you know unforgivable in a way. But like you said, I mean, I think the bigger point here, and you have to dive into all the details. I think bigger point here is if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and let's put that one topic to the side and think more just about a lapse of judgment, a poor moment, whatever it might be. I've made many mistakes in my career. I'm sure I've just said something that was thoughtless. I was thinking in preparation for this episode, I was thinking of a time I was actually at Daily Harvest where um, as a leadership team, we were coming out and we were doing this like fun holiday all hands thing. And I was like past this prop as we left the meeting room to go out to the all hands. And later, it was only like later as I was taking the prop off, I was like, oh, it was like a hat of some sort. It's always stuck with me. It's like all these years later because I think it was just one of those weird and sensitive moments of like, I don't think I should. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it could have seemed to someone else kind of like appropriating a culture or a religion. I don't know. You remember things would get a little weird in that
Yeah.
environment in terms of these like celebrations and props. But I think about these things, and I'm offering it as like we've had these moments where we could be held accountable or shown a lapse in judgment. But to your point, that was still around the time. I don't think that it was like posted online. I
Yeah.
think anybody now needs to understand that even if it's a moment like that, a prop was handed to me, or if it's conversational, somebody said something that you felt was kind of like teeing you up. Um, Nowadays, like anything you say, do, or especially repost, is going to be sort of on your permanent record. And we all need to keep that in mind. And Linda, I don't know if you have comments on that, or also, again, and like you said before, not a lot of this is sort of like scripted Q&A. Linda doesn't really allow for that, by the way. This is my insight as a podcast co-host, so we're not allowed too much prep because we just want to talk organically. But so I don't know if this is something you've researched in the past, but I found it really interesting across career, probably starting around Daily Harvest for me, and then getting to AG1 and some other stops. This whole idea of people on their personal profiles posting, like writing something like, these opinions are only my own. And I remember being maybe asked to do that in like one or two of these settings. And I just, like, I don't want to mock it at all. I mean, that if an organization wants people to do that, but like my question for you, or the topic I want to bring up, is like, I don't even think that what does that really solve for in a way? I guess the organization wants to make that clear in case the employee goes rogue and posts something the next day. But I also want to bring up the point that I don't think that that protects the employee in any way.
No,
They could
no,
still get fired, even if you've made that declaration. You could still
it
get fired based
does
on something you post.
protect the employee. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it absolutely doesn't. Uh, yes, so there are some brands
Hmm.
that feel that it's appropriate for people to put on their social media that these opinions are only my own, right? And they've that's a that if you put that on your profile, that actually doesn't save you as an employee. That just saves the company.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's the company exerting pressure on you
Mm.
almost to be like, well, if you say something, we're going to fire you, but we're not culpable.
Mm.
We
Hmm.
will not be harmed by the things that you say, right? So
Hmm.
that's what a company is doing. So when a company does that, they're like, it's really to protect their brand and to protect their
Mm.
message. And so they can say, so somebody's like, well, Linda said this online. Well, you see that little caption right there? That little caption says that those are her opinions. Those are not representative of
Hmm.
our brand and who we are. So if your company exerts this pressure for you, it's really important for people to understand it's not a personal protection,
Yeah.
it's a company protection. You at that point in time are towing the company line and you're being a company man, so to speak, or person, whatever we want to say it.
Okay. Okay, great. It's one of those moments where I'd love to just be in your brain. Tell me how you really feel. Okay, that's really interesting. And another point that I want to bring up, just for discussion, is around because, like, on the general topic of mixing social world and content with career. It,
Yes.
I think, slash, let's be honest, I know from even before we did a pod together and we would just have catch ups and share stuff going on with our team in our careers. We've each had these sort of unfortunate cases come up of folks posting online, whether it's attached to their own profile or kind of quasi, like a half hearted attempt to make it anonymously, and it comes back to bite them. I'll tell one quick story and I'll try to do it in a way that's understandable and direct. I'm obviously never going to identify people, but to not beat around the bush, at least of generally what happened. Generally, what happened was I had a person on my team. They were doing a great job. They were a great customer care representative. And honestly, like, I had worked to get them the job. They had interviewed great. They're maybe a few months into the job, seemed to be going phenomenally well. Um, Another team member who I think I think it was part of it. First of all, you have to keep in mind for everyone listening, like, people do have a lot of pride in the given team that you're on, the brand. Everyone has their frustrations wherever you might work, but you're also going to have other people on your team who take a lot of pride in the brand and the product. And also in a customer care team, it's interesting because anything that is done to sully the reputation of that brand is going to come back to, like, bite your own team and you, right? Like, if there's negative discourse about that brand or product out there in the world, that's not helpful if you're a customer care associate on the front line. So in this particular case, one associate basically flagged to leadership, like, hey, y'all always want to know if there's kind of negative banter about, the company and the brand online, so I'm kind of giving you a heads up. And also, by the way, I think it's one of my colleagues. Like, it was just basically flagged to me and other leadership. I think one of my own colleagues as an associate is really trashing the company and sharing details. One of the ways they knew it was one of their colleagues is because they're oversharing and sharing basically confidential details that you'd only know if you were on the inside. The way this particular story played out is I was actually proud of the approach from the people team, and as leadership, there was a conversation with that team member, letting them know, like, hey, we saw this content and, like, we know it's you because of, reasons A, B, and C. You're not going to be out of a job. We're not formally disciplining you. We just want to chat with you about A, you're not able to share information that's confidential. Like, we really have to put a stop to that. And B, like, you know, let's just talk through these concerns together in a more constructive way and blah, blah, blah. And it was a really nice dialogue. And you know what happened next, Linda, at the end of the story is that team member basically put in their notice like a week or two later. And I'm still friendly with them. I support this person in their career. I feel pretty confident in saying that for them, this was a really negative event. I felt bad for them and sort of respectfully disagreed with their decision to turn in their notice. I think that was a great moment in their career, but I think they probably just felt so much shame, like everything had changed for them at that job because of this incident that had occurred. Super regrettable, and maybe, well, definitely a cautionary tale. What either like comments on that do you have, or you might have a story or two, another cautionary tale to tell?
Yeah, I think so much of that is these moments again where people are feeling alone, right? They're feeling alone and they're feeling like they don't have an outlet to talk about what's going on at work or like how they're feeling. And this person made a feeble attempt at making themselves confidential, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that again is where I would guide people, like find find a group of people that you can talk to, find, and this is not a sales pitch for me at all in any
Mm-hmm.
respect.
Mm-hmm.
Find a coach.
Yeah.
Find somebody, because this person could have easily had an outlet, had a conversation with
Mm-hmm.
somebody, and then probably gotten some guidance on, okay, this is how you should probably navigate that, or
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that you can do. And again, it brings it back, like, sure, talk about work, talk about the things, do whatever, right? Remember, you're just going to be held accountable because it's an extension of you and you're putting your face and your name and all of the things out there online. And if you're to that point, it's time to get some help. It's time to
Mm-hmm.
get to find a group, find people out there that you can talk to, and create a space in a way where you can navigate. Because I feel deeply for this employee.
Yeah.
They probably were at their wits' end. They were probably someplace that, and they think in their mind, they're like, but I did all of the right things. I didn't make it my own profile. I didn't do it at work. To me, I think like, oh man, this person just needed some help. This
Yeah.
person just needed to connect with somebody. And so I think it's really important for people to find an outlet, because had somebody sat down with this employee and said, hey, let's talk about what's going on, right? Like, how can we do this in a constructive way? How can we figure this out? Is this situation salvageable for you? Or is it someplace where you really need to go? And that person may have been able to say, like, oh, well, if I just approach it this way, or if I just, I had a conversation with a client the other day where I was like, sometimes we just have to let some of the things that bug us go. We have to
Mm-hmm.
recognize that they annoy us
Mm-hmm.
and then just like go, yep, that's going to annoy me,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to have to like not let it annoy me any longer, because it's not worth me feeling this way, or it's not worth my energy, or it's not
Right.
worth me spiraling into something else. So I think, I feel really deeply for that employee.
Yeah,
I
same
think,
here.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just want to make the quick point in response to what you're bringing up, that you're right that it relates back to the theme too of people just wanting to be heard, or the employee feeling like maybe they don't have an outlet for it. I think one of the overall themes it supports is, on one hand, there's kind of shared accountability here. And as a senior leader on that team, some of the shared accountability is for the managers on that team thinking, like maybe we need to do a better job of creating a safe space, getting feedback from our team members and so forth. So I'm a big believer in that. And so there's shared accountability and lessons to be learned for everybody. The flip side being, again, one of the themes of this episode is, while that may be true, it wasn't their manager or me or anyone else who is, in the hot seat and feeling the repercussions of what they posted. So it's like we could have all the empathy and there's shared accountability and, kind of causes for the feedback or the outburst of sorts, but it's the individual and the team member who's going to be feeling the repercussions.
Yes. And so the thing that I would do is, this is the guidance that I'm going to give as somebody who's been very successful on social media. You have two ways that you can go when it comes to social media. Oh, and I do want to spend some time on LinkedIn before we close this episode, because I'm
Okay,
going to
cool.
peel back the curtain on LinkedIn as well for everybody and talk about that.
Nice.
But this is my guidance for all of the other platforms, sans LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, I'm coming for you.
Dang.
So
Nobody's safe.
nobody's safe. That should be my sign instead of be kind.
Replace be kind with nobody's safe.
So my guidance here is, you can go one of two ways. You can give zero fucks and post whatever you want and be the person that you want and have it be the realest, rawest version of you, or even be like a different version of you, right?
Hmm.
It's totally different. So you can do that. That comes with a heavy level of accountability. That means that you need to understand that everyone in the world is seeing that. Even if you only have 5 views, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to be picked up by somebody else or somebody's going to come for you, right? So if that's the way that you're going to go and it's zero fucks, fine, full support, right?
Hmm.
I need you to understand though that it could limit your jobs because recruiters now, and as somebody who I've hired, geez, Joe, how many people do you think you've hired? I've hired hundreds of people,
Yeah, definitely into the hundreds.
like
Hmm.
hundreds of people. I check people's social media.
Mm.
I will go through when I get somebody who gets escalated up to me to do an interview with. I go check their social media. I go see what am I getting? Am I going to get somebody who's going to come trash talk work behind our backs, or am I getting this person? So I do my due diligence and I check your social media.
Hmm.
Recruiters are checking your social media. If and you never know, like again, you could be somebody who is like, oh well, I'm safe, I never talk to customers, I never talk to the general public, I'm so deep into accounting, nobody's ever going to find me. And you have that one flip out at your Starbucks to get your beverage because they put regular milk versus oat milk and somebody recorded that, and then
Hmm.
some vigilante person's like, find this person. So understanding, again, back to no one's safe, like this is the space where you need to understand like these things happen. And
Yes.
so if it's out there on your social media, if it's out there for the world to see, you need to be ready to be accountable for that. And that could mean being praised at work or punished at work. So it's
Hmm.
really important people understand that piece. Now, the other avenue people can go, and this is the avenue that I advise you to go on, just make your shit private.
Okay.
Just just make your shit private and don't let your colleagues follow you, right? I can tell you that when I was in a seat of power, and so I think that that's a little different for me. Like I would never let anyone who I worked with or worked below me or partnered with follow me on social media before
So what would
before
you
this.
do? How do you actually action that? You'd see a follow request come in and you'd decline it. Would you talk to the person about it as well?
No, I just said no, reject.
Okay, cool.
And if they mentioned it later, I'd be like, yeah, I just don't let people I work with follow me.
Got
Then
it.
after I'm done working with them, they are welcome to come into my personal
Right,
life.
right.
I'm also
Okay.
somebody who makes no bones about talking about my personal life at work.
Hmm.
So everybody knows the names of my kids and like what their grades are. Like everybody knows that. But so I would advise most people just make it private.
Okay. I mean, that's super actionable and specific, and I love it. And to your point, that kind of solves for most other things. The only thing that I want to plus one, and Linda, I haven't talked a lot about my presence on social. As you know, LinkedIn is really kind of like my comfortable space and community, which I consider myself such a dork and sort of a career nerd for that. I felt that way for a while. And you talked about the days that you had like 150 followers on Instagram, like that's still the life that I'm living, and they're all family and friends. And to your point, maybe a few former coworkers. So you've had a lot more to say and a lot more expertise here. But the one thing that the point that I want to make is a plus one to something you just brought up, which is bring intention to your choices.
Yes.
Intention is such a huge kind of overarching theme here. And think about the risk versus reward. And then just be intentional about any choice that you want to make. So if you're feeling like there's some kind of massive reward to post something controversial or objectionable or just show your whole self on social and all of that, first of all, to your point, you could do that and just keep yourself private and be really mindful there. If you're uncomfortable with those settings or you're still kind of nervous, again, just go in with full intention. If you really think it's worth it, go ahead. But I think in many cases there might be a smaller sort of reward versus the risk that could come to you professionally. And so again, even in terms of just how important it is to you to express yourself, there might be a topic that for you is like non-negotiable. Like this is just a core part of my identity. So for example, like politics, I know we said never bring politics into the workplace. I have people in my work world, even some overlap with you, including senior leaders, who find it very important to post about their political stance on social. And like, it's like if they feel like they're going to strike that balance and that's very core to their identity, like, I don't know, I can't respect that more. I think what we're both trying to advise against are cases like posts and content where it's not really about that. It's not that important or core to your identity. It's just fun or flippant or funny or whatever. And especially if you don't have the sort of hygiene and managing your followers that Linda's speaking of, and there's some overlap and you're aware of that, like, shoot, at least just be really intentional about the risk versus reward in anything that you're posting, I guess would be my general advice as someone who hasn't mastered social. But I haven't had any disasters either. And that's just kind of a safe route, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree with all of that. So before we wrap, I'm going to peel the curtain back on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Go out, guns
LinkedIn.
blazing, Linda. Let's do it.
I think so. It might have been the last episode or 2 episodes ago, I'm not sure, where I was like, LinkedIn is not Facebook, right? It's not Facebook. And I stand by that.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn, I get posts all the time on LinkedIn, and I'm like, why are we posting this on LinkedIn? I don't need an update on your kids. That is not the appropriate place for you to put updates of your children. Now, of course, there's a caveat to everything. And sometimes it's, I worked with a gentleman whose kid sadly was gravely ill. And so, we supported him at work. Work did a drive, like work did a thing, right? That's different. I'm talking about like, oh, Maddie did a thing and she was the best tapper on the whole tap crew.
I know the kind of post you're talking about. And as always, I'm more the softy here, right? I'm like, but if they want to post it, I want to hear you out here. But I do want to say, I know the kind of content you're talking about. And sometimes it's around like, my kid, like I took my kid to his first tennis lesson. And sometimes it's like, he got the ball over the net, which is a metaphor for what we need to do with our SaaS strategy in 2026 and relates to like the whole business. And they're like, oh my God, this is super convoluted. All right, so go ahead.
Yes. So first and foremost, save that for someplace else. And I know you think your work colleagues care. They don't. They don't. They listen to the story about your kids and they can't wait for it to be over, right? More often than not, right? I'm sorry, this is the reality. Yes, there are some true connections, and yes, some people genuinely care. But in general, most of your work colleagues never think about your children after you don't work with them any longer.
Okay, fine. But if Ashley or Claire are ever listening to this, I actually did care about the stories about your kids, Linda.
I know.
Linda.
I did send you jerseys from Argentina for your kids. So I'm just saying, like, yes, we sometimes do genuinely care. But in general,
you won/earn/bought into our hearts. Understood. Okay.
Yes. But here's the other thing that I don't think people understand. So maybe you don't post on LinkedIn. Maybe you're like, I never do those things. But you like to comment. So I post on LinkedIn as well, and I don't post as prolifically on LinkedIn as I do in other platforms. I only post things that I think that my LinkedIn reach could really appreciate, right? Like people I've connected with, and I know like this is a topic. I talked about toxic positivity at work. I talked about year-end reviews. I talked about company employee surveys. These are things that I think are really applicable in the workspace, although all I do is talk about work. But the thing I would caution you on is the commenting and even the liking, right? Because your entire professional network, so everyone you're connected to on LinkedIn gets a notification when you comment and what your comment was, or a like. And the reason this is a cautionary tale and the reason I'm trying to guide people through this is I have had some fun trolls come in and post on or comment on my post. And I'm like, do you realize? So again, when we talk about like, how are we showing up at work and how is this affecting us at work?
Yeah.
I had someone come in and post because I post in various stages of readiness, right? And I had just come out of the gym. I'd had a thought. I'd recorded the thought. And I had a person come and comment and they're like, maybe your message would be better if you brushed your hair.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, okay, I don't understand.
I shouldn't be surprised right now, but I still am. That is not what I expected to hear, but that is just awful and shocking.
And here's the thing. I mean, it just does not bother me at all. I know what
that's the thing. It's like, because it's you, I almost said it's hilarious, even though I don't actually think it's funny, but just it's only knowing you and picturing your reaction that like that part was kind of funny for me, but ridiculous.
I'm like, this has had millions of views. This is not a post that like had 100 views. This has had
Yeah.
millions of views. And the only thing you're adding to the conversation is maybe people would take it actually said maybe people would take your content more seriously, or the context. Maybe people will take the context of your message more seriously if you washed your face and brushed your hair.
There's so much to
I was
say.
like, so me being me, I responded back with, "Hey, being a troll on LinkedIn is not a good look for you."
Mm,
But that's the thing you have to
yes.
understand is her, and I looked her up. I went to
Mm,
her page.
hmm.
I looked her up. I looked at where she went to school because that's what LinkedIn has. LinkedIn has got some very personal details on you. And this is again is like if I were a vindictive, awful person, maybe I reach out to her employer and be
Hmm.
like, "Is this the
Hmm.
kind of
Right.
person you have working?" Your comments, specifically your comments, and trying to cause drama or be a troll on LinkedIn get
Hmm.
more attention. I actually have seen my comments, and again, because I understand the analytics of these things, I've seen my comments touch more people than my post touches.
Super interesting. Super interesting and powerful. So
So
on
be
on
kind on.
the yes, yes. So on the advice that you're giving, put a bow on it, nothing to add. What I'm excited to bring up, and you could tell I'm very, very proud to bring up this point actually. Linda, do you, if I tell you that I made one comment ever on LinkedIn in my life that was at all spicy, sort of the spiciest comment I've ever made on LinkedIn, would you be able to guess what it was? It relates to you. I think it was on
Really?
LinkedIn, right? Yeah. Do you remember when we were texting over the summer about one of your first viral posts? And again, this is not scripted. I'm sure you don't want to go into too much detail, and that's not too important, but Linda had a hot take. It's still one of your, I think, your pin posts. It's incredible, actually. I mean, it's about just sort of high-powered team members and management and so forth, just core Linda content. And you were getting plagiarized shamelessly, and we were
Yeah.
texting about it. And I was in
Yeah.
Montenegro and you were wherever, and we were just texting about it. And like my blood was boiling. People were just blatantly. And the thing is, one of the people who plagiarized your exact words was then getting all these accolades in their comments. So this is like neither here nor there. And again, usually I play it like really safe. I was just like, this isn't right, but I still phrased it in a very professional manner.
I
And
felt
I just called out to them. I said, hey, these are really phenomenal insights. It would just be even better if you gave credit to the person who originally penned them, which is Linda Harvey. And I think I linked back to your Instagram post or something. That was kind of, for me in my life, a wild episode.
yeah, it's actually happened like two or three other times
Oh my
where
gosh.
it's been like something just like
You didn't
this.
tell me the other times.
Yeah,
Because maybe you're like, that was
it was on
embarrassing.
that post. So I've had it
Yeah. Oh
happen
my
two
God.
or three other times. And I've gotten a little bit more bold.
Mm,
And I think that I appreciated you standing up for me and doing that thing because I think I took a page out of your book and I said, "Hey, listen, like I love that you're spreading this message. Thanks for spreading the
yeah.
message.
Right.
I would appreciate like you cite the source. Like I just would appreciate that you cite the source." And I do think it's okay to say something. Like we should say something. That person that you commented on deleted their post
Right.
real
They took it
fast.
down.
Yeah, they deleted it real fast.
Mm,
Once they found out kind of like and the thing is if you're going to quote something that's got 9 million views, it's probably going to come back to you. Like you're probably going to see that where people are like,
yeah, I
"Not a
remember I
good."
wasn't the only one even who was
Yeah.
commenting in that direction.
There was a lot of
Just
drama.
give credit where it's due. You could give credit and then riff off of it. That's welcome. That's great.
Yep. Yep. So just and again, you just never know who's looking. You never know. Like again, I had the people who reached out to me when they saw that post on
Hmm.
LinkedIn. They were people who I was not connected with. They weren't. They were a follower, I think, on TikTok, not on Instagram.
Hmm.
I had several people in my DMs just going, "Did you know this is happening? Did you know that
Yep.
this is a thing?"
Yep.
And there has been such other drama on other platforms that I could tell you privately, where I'm just like, "My, this is intense," right? And so the thing is just know that like you never know who's looking, and I think that that was like the perfect case where this person They didn't put a picture of themselves. They weren't doing a talking head. They weren't doing anything. They had just taken my words and had typed them out, sold them as their own, which happens, right? It happens. They had sold them as their own. And they were continuing to see, like, I mean, this person had hundreds of comments. People were just like, this is so, I mean, I think when I looked, it had like 500 comments. And on LinkedIn, that's a lot of comments.
Yeah.
Like, you're so smart. You're so wise. And so this person,
which I imagine you felt some pride about. People found the insights really, thought-provoking. It's just that they were yours.
It was mine. And so you just don't know. It's just a testament to tell, like, you just don't know who's looking. You just don't know who's going to like call you on your stuff. And again, if you can avoid that on LinkedIn, that is the platform to avoid it on.
Definitely. So Linda, my last thought on LinkedIn and maybe for today's episode is, in a sense, it's like an offshoot thought, and it's a preview maybe for a later episode. We have no idea whether it's episode 7 or 70 or whatever, but maybe at some point in the future, we'll bring it back to LinkedIn. I like to tell our audience, I give credit to LinkedIn for so much of my success and career and fulfillment. And it is such an incredible platform to leverage for your career. So it's something I'd love to speak on in a different context later. And this is, by the way, I think like my job on the podcast is to throw out random thoughts, and then your job is to reel us back in for the episode. So you're welcome once again. But that's a preview for another time. I think for today, gosh, this has been really interesting. And I think a lot of, there's some cautionary tales. But like my comments with LinkedIn, and like you would attest to, or your life and career speaks to, like, these are also phenomenal platforms. We're just trying to give advice in terms of the right ways to leverage them, and some cautionary tales for the listeners. But yeah, Linda, you shared a lot of great insights today. I loved it.
Thanks. This was fun. I always enjoy our conversations. I hope the people enjoy the conversations. So yeah, final thoughts for today. Anything that's kind of got you hot under the collar for the rest of the week, or anything that's got you a little hot under the collar in general?
You know what have me really hot under the collar in a very positive way, like positive, super excited, hot under the collar, would be if anyone listening, follow the podcast, rate it, write a review, and tell 10 friends. And we're a few episodes in, but I think we're supposed to say things like that, Linda. So I'll be the one. I'm gonna use my final word to just ask the people, if you appreciate what we're doing, like, follow, right? Or even like a sentence of feedback. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. It's invaluable. And tell a few friends, please.
Yes. All of those things, all of the things, please like, follow, subscribe.
We'll see as the episodes go on if I keep wiggling my way out of sharing things that make me really hot and angry and bothered. I'm pretty chill. I'm like feeling pretty happy.
I'm going to get you with one of these things. Well, I will tell you the thing that's got me a little hot under the collar.
Sounds good.
And it's actually hot under the collar, as in like I'm a little disappointed. I just found out a phrase that I use frequently, I can't use any longer, and that makes me a little sad. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know. So I'm no longer, and Joe, you and I talked about this a little bit. I tend to say things that are like, how old
you tend to speak your mind.
Yeah. But I also say things that are like, how old are you? Like, are you 80? I can no longer say, call a spade a spade.
Should I ask why? I'm gonna ask why.
It's actually like deeply based in racism.
Oh.
So well, I can't use that any longer. So for those who stuck around with us this long, if that's one of the things that you say, we are no longer saying those things.
No, honestly, it's good that you're letting everybody know in that case. I'm an idiot and I like to play poker, and I always just pictured a deck of cards whenever anybody said that, and I thought that's what that was. I don't know how that would have made sense, but that's what went on in my brain. So that's good. That's good. It's good that you're spreading the word.
A little something hot under the collar for me this week.
Okay. And on that note,
we are done. Everyone, like, subscribe, do the things. Take care, everybody.
Be kind and Linda's coming for you. Both are true. Till next time, y'all.